everyone. This book tonight is called Curious George Visits the Zoo. This is George. George was a good little monkey and always very curious. One day, George's friend, the man with the yellow hat, said, "How would you like to see a real elephant, George? Let's go to the zoo." There was a lot to see at the zoo. There were giraffes with necks so long they seemed to reach the sky, and the kangaroos carrying their babies in special pockets. And finally, there were the elephants with their floppy ears and their long trunks, munching on hay. It was lunchtime, and George was starting to feel hungry. He saw people enjoying their lunches on park benches and others picnicking on the grass. "I'm going to find out what time they feed the lions," said the man with the yellow hat. "Please wait here and try not to get into any trouble, George." While George was waiting, he saw a zookeeper with a pail of bananas for the monkeys. I bet I know where he's going to go.
Yep.
The keeper put the pail down to get a drink at the water fountain. George was hungry, so he grabbed the pail and ran away with it. "Hey!" shouted the keeper, "stop that monkey!" But George kept on running. There was a crowd of people standing near the monkey house. This would be just the place for George to hide. Standing by the cage was a little boy holding a red balloon with a long string. All of a sudden, one of the monkeys reached out and snatched the string from the boy's hand. The monkey took off with the balloon and climbed to the top of the cage. But when he tried to squeeze the balloon through the bars, it was too big, and the other monkeys started to shriek and scream. The little boy started to cry. "Please, can somebody get his balloon back?" asked the mother. But none of the people could reach that high. George knew what to do. With the pail in his hand, he climbed to the top of the cage. He took a few bananas and fed them to the monkeys. While the monkeys were eating, George snatched the balloon and swung down from the cage. That was quick thinking, wasn't it? He handed the balloon back to the boy. Just then, the man with the yellow hat came running. "George," the man cried, "I have been looking all over for you." "Please don't be angry with him," said the mother. "He saved my son's balloon." George had saved the day, but he was still very hungry. "Now it's time to feed ourselves, George," said the man, and that's what they did. Now they got bananas. You like bananas too, don't you? You're my little monkey. Tonight we're reading from 1 Samuel 17, David and Goliath. King Saul's army was in trouble. Their enemies, the Philistines, were camped on a hill across the valley. The two armies were getting ready for war. One morning, a huge man came out of the Philistine camp. His name was Goliath. He was 9 feet tall. That's huge. He's a giant.
Whoa.
He wore a helmet and a coat of armor made of heavy bronze. He carried a sword, a spear, and a dagger. Look at all that on him.
Yeah.
Goliath stood and shouted to King Saul's men, "Choose your best soldier to come out and fight me. If he wins, our people will be your slaves. But if I win, your people will be our slaves." No one in Saul's army wanted to fight the giant that day, so Goliath came back the next day and the day after that. 2 times a day he dared someone to fight him, and day after day Saul's men ran away. At this time, David was tending sheep for his father Jesse. 3 of David's brothers were in Saul's army. Jesse asked David to take some bread to them. While David was at the camp, the giant Goliath came forward. "Choose someone to fight me," Goliath called out again. Again, the soldiers of King Saul ran from him. David said to Saul, "We can't let this Philistine make cowards of us. I will go and fight him." "But you are only a boy," King Saul said. "How can you fight such a giant?" David answered, "I have fought lions and bears when they came to take my sheep. The Lord saved me from the claws of lions and bears, and he will keep me safe from the hands of this Philistine." "All right, go ahead," said Saul. "I hope the Lord will help you." Saul dressed David in his own helmet and coat of armor. David could hardly move because he was not used to them, so he took them off. Then David picked up 5 stones from the stream and put them in his shepherd's bag with his sling. With his walking stick in his hand, he stood in front of Goliath. The giant jeered at David. "Do you think I'm a dog that you come after me with a stick?" he said. "You come at me with a sword, a spear, and a dagger," David said, "but I've come to fight you in the name of the Lord all-powerful." David reached into his bag and took out his sling and a stone. He took aim and shot the stone at Goliath. The stone sank into Goliath's forehead, and he fell face down on the ground, dead. When the Philistine army saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. David had saved the Israelites with a sling and a stone. He was so brave, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Little David?
Yeah.
And he didn't use all that silly armor and swords.
Yeah.
But he had God on his side, so
Yeah.
he fought the giant.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you liked the story tonight.
Good
Good night.